When a thief stole my bike, he thought it was all over, but I made him wish he'd never set eyes on it. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands to get what's rightfully yours. I was heartbroken and never thought I'd see my bike again after it was taken from my gym's parking lot. That was just the beginning. When we sneakily got it back, the thief had the audacity to sue for damages. That's when things got interesting. Stay tuned to see how justice prevailed. I'm Jill Connolly, and I love the outdoors, nature, sport, exercise, that sort of thing. The wind whipped through my hair as I pedaled faster, my legs burning with the sweet sensation of muscles rebuilding themselves after months of atrophy. Each revolution of the wheels felt like a small victory against the illness that had kept me bedridden for nearly a year. "Keep going, Andrea," I said to myself with determination, pushing up the steep hill that led to our neighborhood. "You've got this." 6 months ago, I couldn't walk to the mailbox without getting winded. Now I was cycling 15 miles every morning, and it felt incredible. The lightweight carbon frame of my specialized Avalon Pro bike responded to my every command, almost as if it could read my mind. The bike was more than just metal and carbon fiber. It was my freedom, my recovery, my rebirth. Jack had surprised me with it 3 months ago, right after my doctor finally gave me the all clear. I remember the moment perfectly. I'd walked into the garage to find him standing there with a silly grin and this gorgeous blue bike with a giant red bow on the handlebars. "What's this?" I'd asked, my heart already racing. "This," Jack had said, running his hand along the frame, "is your victory chariot. Limited edition Avalon Pro. Only 50 made worldwide." I'd burst into tears right there in the garage. Jack had always been thoughtful, but this was something else entirely. He'd spent months researching the perfect bike while I was sick, saving up and waiting for the day I'd be strong enough to ride again. "How did you even get this?" I'd asked between sobs. "These sell out in minutes." Jack had shrugged, trying to look casual but failing to hide his pride. "I may have stayed up all night refreshing the website and called in a favor from Bert." Bert was our friend, a professional cyclist who'd raced in the Tour de France twice. He'd helped Jack get on the priority list for the limited release. Now, as I crested the hill and coasted down toward our house, I felt a surge of gratitude. The illness had taken so much from me: my strength, my job as a physical therapist, nearly a year of my life. But it had also shown me what mattered: Jack's unwavering support, friends like Bert who checked in every week, and my own resilience. I parked the bike in our garage, toweled off my sweat, and headed inside for a shower before my afternoon appointment at the gym. My personal trainer, Maya, was helping me rebuild my core strength, and I didn't want to be late. "I've parked it securely in the gym's car park," I told Jack on the phone as I walked out of the gym 2 hours later. "I'll just be 10 minutes. Maya wants to show me some new stretches for my lower back." "Take your time," Jack replied. "I'm still at the office anyway. Love you. Love you too." I hung up and headed back inside, feeling good about the progress I'd made today. Maya had been impressed with my improved stamina, and the chronic pain in my lower back was finally starting to subside. When I walked back out 20 minutes later, Maya's quick stretches had turned into a full cool-down routine. I stopped dead in my tracks. The bike rack behind the gym exit was empty. I blinked, thinking I'd somehow forgotten where I'd parked. I scanned the entire front of the building, then jogged around to the side entrance. Nothing. My stomach dropped as the reality hit me. My bike was gone. I ran back inside, frantically explaining to the gym manager what had happened. He pulled up the security cameras, and we watched in horror as a man in a hoodie casually cut through my bike lock with bolt cutters, then disabled the gym's top-range security device and alarm in seconds, hopped on my bike, and rode away, all in the span of 3 minutes. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Connolly," the manager said, already calling the police. "This has never happened before." I nodded numbly, fighting back tears. It wasn't just a bike. It was my recovery, my freedom. Jack's gift that represented everything we'd been through together. The police arrived quickly, took my statement, and promised to keep an eye out, but I could tell from their expressions that they didn't hold much hope. Bike thefts were common, they explained, and recovery rates were dismally low. When Jack picked me up 30 minutes later, I broke down in the car. "We'll find it," he promised, squeezing my hand, "or we'll get you another one." "There aren't any more," I sobbed. "Limited edition, remember? And it's not just that, it's what it meant. Everything you did to get it for me." Jack was quiet for a moment, then his expression changed. "Wait, didn't Bert mention something about these bikes having some kind of tracking system?" I looked up, wiping my eyes. "What?" "I remember him saying something when I was researching them. These high-end racing bikes sometimes have tracking devices built in, for professionals who need to protect their equipment." Hope flickered in my chest. "Let's call Bert." 2 hours later, Bert was sitting at our kitchen table with his laptop open while Jack and I hovered behind him. "Avalon started putting trackers in their Pro models last year," Bert explained, typing rapidly. "They're crazy small, embedded in the frame. The thief would never know it's there." He pulled up the Avalon website and guided us through registering the bike's serial number in their system. Moments later, a map appeared on the screen with a blinking blue dot. "That's it," Bert exclaimed. "Your bike is alive and pinging from— Let me zoom in. Looks like an apartment complex about 8 miles from here. The Ridgeway Apartments." My heart raced with excitement. "So we can get it back! We should call the police right now!" Jack was already dialing, but his face fell as he listened to the response. When he hung up, he looked frustrated. "They said they can't enter someone's private residence based only on a tracking signal. They need more concrete evidence that it's stolen property." "But we have the serial number," I protested. "We have the receipt. We have the security footage." I know, Jack sighed. "But they said the tracking data alone isn't enough for a warrant. They suggested we keep monitoring it and call them if we see it in a public place where they can approach the thief." Bert leaned back in his chair, thinking. "So we need to catch this guy with the bike outside his apartment." We spent the next 2 weeks obsessively monitoring the tracker. The bike moved regularly. The thief was using it, but never stayed in one public place long enough for the police to intervene. Every evening, it returned to the same apartment building. Jack and I drove by several times, hoping to spot the thief arriving or leaving, but we never got lucky. We even staked out the building one Saturday, sitting in our car for 6 hours straight. The bike moved that day, according to the tracker, but we never saw who was riding it. "This is impossible," I groaned as we drove home after another failed stakeout. "He never leaves it unattended, not even for a minute." Jack reached over and squeezed my knee. "We'll figure something out, I promise." The breakthrough came a week later. I was scrolling through online bike listings, something I'd started doing compulsively since the theft, when my heart nearly stopped. "Jack!" I yelled from the living room. "Jack!" He came running from the kitchen, dish towel still in hand. What's wrong?" I turned my laptop around to show him the screen. There was my bike, my exact bike, listed for sale. The seller had tried to be clever, repainting parts of the frame black to hide the distinctive blue, but there was no mistaking the unique carbon fiber pattern and custom components. "He's selling it," I whispered, my hands shaking with anger and excitement. "For $3,000 less than what you paid." Jack's expression hardened as he read the listing. "It's definitely yours. Look at the handlebar tape. It has that tiny tear where you scraped it against the garage door that first week." We immediately called Bert, who came over within the hour. The three of us huddled around my laptop, formulating a plan. "I'll contact him," Bert suggested. "He doesn't know me. I'll say I'm interested in buying the bike and want to meet up." "And then what?" I asked. "We can't just accuse him of stealing it. What if he's dangerous?" Jack nodded. "We need to be smart about this. We need proof it's your bike before confronting him, and we need to be in a public place." "The serial number," Bert said, snapping his fingers. "It's stamped on the bottom bracket. If I can check that while I'm inspecting the bike, we'll have definitive proof." Jack was already nodding. "And if it matches, we call the police right there." But I knew from our previous experience that even with proof, this wouldn't be straightforward. The police would arrive. The thief would claim he bought it from someone else, not knowing it was stolen. And it would become a complicated legal mess that could drag on for months. I looked at my two favorite men in the world and had a sudden inspiration. I have a better idea. The meeting was set for Saturday at noon in the parking lot of a shopping center. Bert would pose as the interested buyer, while Jack and I would wait in our car nearby, ready to confirm the bike's identity. As we parked, I felt my stomach knot with tension. What if something goes wrong? Jack took my hand. Then we abort and call the police. Safety first. We watched as Bert approached a man in his 30s wearing jeans and a leather jacket. The thief had the bike, my bike, propped against his car, a red sedan with tinted windows. Even from a distance, I could tell it was mine. The way the sunlight caught the carbon weave, the custom saddle I'd installed just weeks before it was stolen. My hands clenched into fists as I fought the urge to run over and confront him directly. Bert shook the man's hand and began examining the bike, casually chatting and asking questions. We watched as he crouched down, pretending to inspect the drivetrain while actually checking the serial number on the bottom bracket. When he stood up, he gave an almost imperceptible nod in our direction. Confirmation. It was my bike. He's going to ask to test ride it now, Jack murmured, his body tense beside me. If the guy agrees, we're good to go. Sure enough, Bert was gesturing toward the alley that ran behind the stores, clearly asking for a test ride. The thief seemed hesitant at first, but Bert pulled out his wallet, showing that he was serious about buying. Finally, the thief nodded. Bert swung his leg over the frame, adjusted the seat height, and began pedaling slowly down the alley, the thief watching with his arms crossed. Then, in an instant, everything changed. Bert stood up on the pedals and accelerated with the explosive power that had made him a champion. He disappeared around the corner of the building in seconds. Go, go, go! I shouted to Jack, who already had our car in gear. We peeled out of our parking spot and drove in the opposite direction from where Bert had fled, just as we'd planned. In the rearview mirror, I could see the thief standing dumbfounded for a moment before sprinting to his car. He's following Bert, Jack reported, watching the red sedan tear out of the parking lot. Perfect. Bert will lose him in 5 minutes. Bert was not just a professional cyclist. He was one of the best urban riders in the country, known for his ability to navigate city streets with uncanny precision. The plan was for him to lose the thief through a series of narrow alleys and one-way streets that we'd mapped out the day before, then meet us at a predetermined location. We circled around to the meeting point, a small park about 2 miles away, and waited anxiously. 10 minutes passed. 15. Where is he? I whispered, scanning the street. He should be here by now. Jack pulled out his phone to call Bert when we heard the distinctive whir of carbon wheels on pavement. Bert came flying around the corner, hair wild and face split with an enormous grin. Did you see his face? He laughed as he skidded to a stop beside our car. Priceless! I jumped out and threw my arms around him, then ran my hands over my beloved bike, checking for any damage. It was scratched in places, and the thief's amateur paint job was awful, but it was still my bike, my freedom. Let's get out of here, Jack urged, helping Bert secure the bike to our car's rack, before he somehow finds us. As we drove home, adrenaline still coursing through my veins, I couldn't stop smiling. I can't believe we actually pulled that off. Justice served, Bert said from the back seat, still looking pleased with himself. Though technically, I just stole a bike. You reclaimed stolen property, Jack corrected. Big difference. None of us could have predicted what happened next. 3 weeks later, we received a letter from a lawyer. The thief, whose name we learned was Raymond Bartlett, was suing us for theft, damage to property, and personal injury. Apparently, while chasing Bert, he had crashed his car into a fire hydrant and suffered minor injuries. This can't be real, I gasped, reading the letter again. He's suing us. He stole my bike. Jack was already on the phone with our insurance company, then a lawyer. But another, more disturbing thought suddenly hit me. Jack, how did he find us? How does he know our names and address? Jack's face went pale as the implications sank in. I don't know. Do you think he followed Bert home somehow? Or maybe he got our license plate when we drove away? We spent that night barely sleeping, constantly checking the locks and peering out windows, wondering if Bartlett was watching our house. The idea that this thief knew where we lived sent chills down my spine. It wasn't until the next morning, as I was describing my bike's features to our lawyer over the phone, that the realization hit me like a thunderbolt. "The storage pouch," I blurted out, interrupting the lawyer mid-sentence. "Jack, remember that tiny zipper compartment under the saddle? I kept my emergency contact card and some repair receipts in there." Jack groaned, running his hands through his hair. "With our full names and address on them. That's how he found us." What had seemed like a responsible precaution, keeping identification with the bike in case of an accident, had now exposed us to the very person who had stolen from us. The invasion of privacy felt almost as violating as the theft itself. But something still didn't add up. "Wait," I said slowly. "That explains how he got our information. But how did he know it was us who took the bike back? Why not assume it was just another thief?" Our lawyer asked the same question when we met with her later that day. It wasn't until we received the full lawsuit documents that that piece of the puzzle finally fell into place. In his statement, Bartlett claimed he had recognized our car at the shopping center parking lot. Apparently, weeks before the sting operation, when Jack and I had staked out his apartment building hoping to spot him with the bike, he had noticed us. He'd become suspicious of the same car appearing multiple times, and had even taken photos of our license plate. He felt he was being stalked or targeted by bike thieves. How ironic. When Bert sped away with the bike and we drove off in the opposite direction, Bartlett had made the connection. He'd found my contact information in the bike pouch, matched it with the car he'd previously photographed, and realized this wasn't a random theft. It was the original owners reclaiming what was theirs. The invasion of privacy felt almost as violating as the theft itself. Not only had he stolen my bike, but he'd been aware of us watching him all along. The next few months became a blur of legal consultations, statements, and mounting anxiety. We submitted the bike's serial number, the security footage from the gym, the tracking data, everything we had to prove the bike was legally mine. The case finally went to court 6 months after our parking lot sting operation. I sat nervously beside Jack as our lawyer presented our evidence. When Bartlett took the stand, he tried to claim he'd purchased the bike from some guy at a flea market, not knowing it was stolen. But under cross-examination, he began to unravel. "If you purchased this bicycle legally," our lawyer asked, "why did you repaint it?" I just wanted to customize it," Bartlett stammered. "And why didn't you register the warranty with Avalon as any legitimate buyer would?" "I didn't know I needed to." "Mr. Bartlett, are you aware that when you listed this bike for sale, you described it as barely used, purchased new 3 months ago?" Bartlett's face paled. "I might have exaggerated a bit for the listing." "So you lied in your advertisement?" "That's not just like you're lying now about how you acquired this bicycle." The moment Bartlett cracked was almost theatrical. After 30 more minutes of relentless questioning, he finally blurted out, "Fine, I took the stupid bike, but they stole it back and I wrecked my car because of them." The courtroom went silent. Our lawyer smiled slightly. "No further questions, Your Honor." The judge dismissed Bartlett's lawsuit, with costs, lambasted him for attempting to use the court to make a profit from and benefit from his own criminal activities, declaring his injuries were his own fault. He also sanctioned his lawyer for bringing the case in the first place. We too were admonished for taking matters into our own hands, and rightly so. Things could have gone badly wrong for us if Bartlett had been seriously injured or worse, so I wouldn't recommend that you do what we did. Bartlett's admission in court led to him facing criminal charges for the theft. 3 months later, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail and ordered to pay restitution for the damage to my bike, even though it was fully insured. Today, 1 year after getting my bike back, I'm stronger than I've ever been. The illness that once threatened to define my life is just a memory, and every morning when I clip into my pedals and feel the familiar connection to my bike, I'm grateful. Jack rides with me now on weekends, on a bike Bert helped him choose. We've turned our garage into a mini cycling studio with tools hanging on pegboards, and our bikes displayed like the works of art they are. Sometimes, when we're riding together along the river trail that runs through our city, I think about everything we went through, the illness, the theft, the court case, and how each challenge only made us stronger, more determined, more appreciative of what we have. The tracker is still embedded in my bike's frame, though I've never needed it again. It serves as a reminder that sometimes justice requires creativity, courage, and good friends who are willing to race through alleyways at top speed to help you reclaim what's yours. As I coast down my favorite hill, the wind in my hair and the sun warm on my face, I realize that this bike represents more than just my recovery or Jack's thoughtful gift. It represents the victory of what's right over what's wrong, the triumph of honesty over deception, the knowledge that sometimes when you fight for what's yours with determination and the help of those who love you, justice prevails. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Have you ever had to deal with anything similar or heard how someone got their own back? Share your experiences in the comments below. Maybe your story will help someone else make a decision. Next, why not watch our next story, shown right here on the screen? It's a good one. You'll see.